Hello, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mings, and today it's time to have a little rambly-wambly video about everyone's favorite black sheep in the Fire Emblem franchise. It is the one and only Gaiden retrospective. So, you guys seem to enjoy it. Last time I did my little rambling video about FE1 after I beat that, so I figured why not do the same thing for FE2. In fact, I gotta do one for FE3 recently because I beat that one as well. Spoiler. I'm currently doing this gauntlet where I try to Iron Man the whole series without a single game over. I'm currently at FE4, so things are going pretty well now. And I was going to do this video earlier, but I had a lot on my plate with the charity stream stuff. My father got sick, so there was a lot of stuff that happened. But I should be getting back to a somewhat regular schedule now. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about FE2, shall we? So in this video, I'm going to talk about my experiences after coming back to Gaiden one more time. I'm going to talk about new things I learned after playing this game again. And we're going to do the thing towards the end. You guys seem to enjoy it when I do like 5 units that I've changed my minds on after my last playthrough. So I'm going to do that as well. So the first thing I want to talk about with Fire Emblem Gaiden is a misconception that I had. Now, I have not touched this game since I did Gaiden Abridged. So that's like this shitposty series that I did where I would play through the game with heavy edits because I thought a regular playthrough was just too boring. And my thoughts on that still stands. The gameplay is still really, really slow. My heart goes out to whoever played this back on the cartridge in the day. Like, a playthrough of Gaiden must have taken over a year. Like, this game is so slow. I think I sped it up by almost 80%, and it still felt so slow and tedious. Like, I found myself just being annoyed by the gameplay. So the gameplay has not held up super well. When you speed it up, it becomes more bearable, but it's still not amazing. I still think Gaiden is a step down, gameplay-wise, from Fire Emblem 1. And those opinions have not changed. However, a few opinions have changed regarding the gameplay, and the first thing I gotta point out is the difficulty. Gaiden is such a difficult game, much more difficult than I remember. It actually ended Season 1 of my run. When I arrived at the Fair Shrine, my Alm just got nuked down by witches from full health, and he died. And I ended up choosing easy mode for my second playthrough. Not because I thought it was too hard per se, but because it was so slow. You know, easy mode just doubles your experience gains, which does actually make the game a lot easier. Contrary to what a lot of people say, it doesn't just cut out the grinding. It does actually make the game a hell of a lot easier. There's no doubt about that. But even on easy mode, this game was actually nail-bitingly hard. There are some absolutely brutal difficulty jumps in Gaiden that can really take you off guard if you're not prepared for them. The first one is Act 3 for Alm. Like, after you conquer Desai's fortress and you go on to invade Rigel, those encounters that Alm runs into at first are some of the most brutal encounters you will ever face in Fire Emblem. If you are not prepared for them, you will absolutely get murdered. And I was absolutely astounded by how insanely hard this game was. I said this in chat, and I think PH also said it during one of my streams. I think a normal mode, no grind run of Gaiden is probably one of the hardest challenges that you can attempt in Fire Emblem. Now, of course, no grind is a bit of a weird thing because there are parts in Gaiden where you have to move through maps and you'll be forced to do random encounters. But I'd say if you don't go out of your way to grind and you play a normal mode, this game is going to require some serious effort to beat. Now, of course, you can grind. You can grind as much as you want to in Gaiden, so you can always just keep grinding until the game gets easier. But even so, there are parts about this game that really shocked me. I was under the impression that it was like Shadows of Valentia on normal mode, without the turn wheel. But that's not true at all. I would say Gaiden is way harder than Shadows of Valentia, even on hard mode. And the reason why Shadows of Valentia is easier than Gaiden is not because of the addition of the turn wheel, although that helps, but because they buffed pretty much every character in this game. If you play Echoes, I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about Echoes, but they really did buff most of the characters, and in a game like Gaiden, where every stat matters, little buffs can have a big impact on the gameplay. So going back and playing Gaiden, I was just astounded by how difficult this game was, how insane some of the difficulty spikes were. and just like how overwhelmed you can get by the enemies. Like, especially once you enter Act 4 on Alm's side, you start fighting against the witches. There's a map where you fight against the witch boss that summons other witches that can teleport in and nuke you. It is brutal, man. And like, the first time I entered the Fair Shrine, I just got violated. Some of those encounters in there are absolutely insane. And as you guys saw, like, Alm can just get nuked down from full health. There's very little you can do about it if the witches decide to just focus fire him down. So Gaiden, it is a hard game. It is a very hard game. Even when you play on easy mode, even when you do a fair bit of grinding, it can still kick your butt. And I think if you really enjoy a challenge, if you don't mind Gaiden's slow and tedious gameplay, if you don't mind using a little bit of emulator speed up, you actually want to go back and try a real challenge. Go try normal mode Gaiden without grinding, and I think you'll be in for a very, very bad time. Kaga can be cruel sometimes. I think he was definitely experimenting a lot with Gaiden, you can tell. And like, again, my heart goes out to whoever played this on the cartridge back in the day. It must have been quite the experience. So, but I will say, for all of Gaiden's like slowness and clunkiness, I do understand why this game has a bit of a cult fan following. I do get it. I think there's something special about Gaiden that I actually don't think Echoes was really able to recreate. Echoes is very charming in its own ways, and I promised I was gonna like spend a lot of time talking about Echoes, but I will say Echoes and Gaiden, for as similar as they are to each other, feel like fundamentally different games altogether. Playing one does not give me the feeling of the other. Yes, they are very similar to each other, like the map design, the units, the classes, the gameplay, everything. But there is something very unique about Gaiden that I don't think Kaga was ever able to capture again in any of his Fire Emblem games, or in any Fire Emblem game ever since. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. I just know it's there. And I think a lot of Gaiden fans may see where I'm coming from with this. There's something archaic and mysterious and kind of weird about Gaiden. When you play it, it feels off. But in a good way. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's the only way I can kind of put my emotions into words when describing this game. I'm not a Gaiden fanboy, I will say this, like, I may like it a little more back from when I did Gaiden Abridged, but I still dislike it heavily, gameplay-wise. But a part of me is willing to concede that there is something special about this game, and I think that's where the hardcore Gaiden fans, I think that's what they're latching on to for the most part. So, yeah. So, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the gameplay. Like, it's not a super deep analysis or anything, but I don't really feel like I have much else to say about it. You know, it's harder than I remember. It's about as slow as clunky as I remember, and I had as decent of a time playing it as you can have playing any Fire Emblem game. You know, it's probably going to be one of my least favorite games in the Gauntlet, maybe with the exception of like maybe New Mystery of the Emblem or Revelation. But I still had an okay time. Like, Fire Emblem is always going to be fun regardless. Even if you play the bad ones, you're still going to have a good time playing them. It still feels addictive to level up your units, watch them grow, you know, turn units into absolute beasts. You know, I was able to... I did some really unorthodox strats this run. Like, I had Genny killed off, and I had her join Alm's side so she could use the Deer spell. And I also had Saber go through the Dreadfighter loop. And I turned him into a mage, and he just soloed the entire Alm side. It was kind of hilarious. You can break Gaiden if you grind enough, and if you break Gaiden, it actually becomes quite fun, because you can just like have a single unit cruise through the maps. I mean, you can do this in every Fire Emblem game, but in Gaiden, you can break it very easily as well. Like, you can definitely like powerhouse Gaiden with just a single character. So this isn't like a criticism of Gaiden or anything, but I will add that it's a game that it's very easy to do this, especially if you play on easy mode with double experience, as I did on my second playthrough. I don't know if I'll ever go back to Gaiden. I mean, we'll see. If I lose, I have to. But I will say I feel very done with Gaiden at this point. I don't have a strong desire to go back and replay it. I feel like I've seen most of what Gaiden has to offer, and I appreciate what little it did show me, and I learned a few new things about it. Now, let's talk about 5 units that I changed my mind about, shall we? So I'm going to start with a bit of a basic option right here. Lukas, I will say this, I appreciate Barons in Gaiden a lot, especially on Alm's side. Lukas is not the only Baron that you can get. You can promote your villagers, you also get Forsyth. But Lukas is your standard armor knight that will accompany you throughout the entirety of Alm's side. Unless you, like, kill him off and revive him on Celica's side, but... Alm's side is just filled with paladins and very scary physical units that charge at you in huge squads, and Lukas is your primary way of dealing with those. You need a unit with like 15 plus defense on Alm's side. If you don't have that, you're going to have a very bad time when a bunch of paladins come charging at you. So Lukas, I always knew he was decent, but I ended up appreciating him a lot on Alm's side. I don't really know if I would have been able to clear his side without him. Now, Lukas isn't necessarily special in this regard. Forsyth can do what he does. But I will say, just having him available, I appreciated him a lot more this time around. I don't really think I noticed how much he was helping me when I was doing Gaiden Abridged, because I was so focused on the edits and the memes and whatnot, and I had the luxury of like resetting maps when I failed, so I didn't necessarily need to rely on Lukas a lot. I could just send in Alm, and you know, if he died, I could just reset. It was a funny meme, haha. But considering this time around, I was playing an Iron Man where the stakes were very high, having like a safe unit like Lukas that could just like tank 6 paladins without any issue was very, very nice. So I ended up appreciating Lukas a lot more. He definitely improved, or my perception of him improved after my playthrough, if that makes sense. So another unit, and again, I'm not going to say that I changed my mind a lot, but I definitely appreciated her more this time around, and that was Genny. Now, I always knew Genny was important to Celica's side, but I don't think I quite realized just how important she was, because she ended up dying a lot for me. I lost her like 3 or 4 times. I revived her twice, I think, in Season 1, and I think I also revived her twice in Season 2, and then I also revived her a 3rd time on Alm's side, because I ran out of revival shrines on Celica's side. One of the reasons why Genny is so important is because she has the Expel spell, which in Gaiden is super broken. In Echoes, it got nerfed heavily, and many spells actually got nerfed in Echoes, like Warp and Fortify. But Expel in Gaiden removes everything but one monster on the map, so you can basically skip monster encounters, like every single time. It's also very good when you fight Centaurs, gargoyle summoning or zombie dragon summoning Centaurs. You just pop an Expel and boom, she just removes every single monster, I believe. So it is an insanely good spell, and just the ability to skip monster fights on Celica's side is just so valuable. It allows you to go through graveyards without having to fight every time. It also just allows you to skip really, really dangerous encounters. Like, when you go into the graveyards on Celica's side, sometimes you will get Bone Walkers, and they are just such a pain to fight because they take forever to kill and they give no experience. It's just a waste of time. So what you can do with Genny is you can just expel until you get mummies, which grant like 100 experience when killed, and you can just assure that you just grind on mummies. So Genny, I always knew she was good, but I think my latest playthrough cemented to me how good she really is. Because, like, once I didn't have Genny anymore on Celica's side, the difficulty spiked immensely. But then, of course, what I did was I just revived her over on Alm's side, and I used her to just trivialize the Fair Shrine. She can't expel witches or centaurs, but she can expel their minions, which makes the Fair Shrine a lot more doable. So definitely a medal to Genny. She is probably one of the most integral units in the game, and I really appreciated her this time around. A third unit that I gained a new appreciation for on Celica's side was Kamui. This guy gets a lot of crap in the fandom, both in Echoes and in Gaiden. Kamui, and this is how I described him too, is seen as discount Saber, or like Saber at home. And I feel like that's a very wrong label to give him, because it doesn't really accurately represent his gameplay at all. Saber is, of course, the favored merc because he joins early on, and so you can, like, he joins as a tank in a group full of mages, so he feels very unique. So everyone likes Saber a lot, and he has like he's like a staple on everyone's team. And in Echoes, they gave him, you know, a lot of favoritism. They gave him, like, he became like a mandatory plot character that couldn't die. Like, he would still have lines even when killed. And Kamui was kind of shoved to the sidelines. And playing through the game again, I actually realized that Kamui is a lot better than we give him credit for, because what he does is he's a little bit less tanky than Saber, but he's really fast. In Gaiden, a 40% speed growth is a rarity. Very few characters in Gaiden have a 40% speed growth. This is a game where the average growth rate is like 15 or 20%. So having a character that outspeeds all other characters is insanely nice. Now, normally with a mercenary, you don't necessarily care that much if they're slow, because when they promote, their speed gets bumped up to the stat that they promote into. But it still takes a while for Kamui to get there, and having just a super fast sword user, I found it immensely useful. Now, my Kamui, I think, got majorly blessed, so maybe my impression of him is skewed a little bit, but I just don't think this guy deserves to be labeled as just discount Saber. He is actually a very good mercenary in his own right. Yeah, there are a lot of mercs over on Celica's side, but you need them. They're very integral. You go up against a lot of mages, and as a dread fighter, this guy will kick all sorts of ass. I actually ended up appreciating him a lot. So, for the number 4 slot, we have a character that I actually found very lackluster, and this kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because, like, I love this girl. I'm talking about Mathilda. I don't know why, but every time I play Gaiden, which isn't often, and even when I play Echoes, I'm under this impression that Mathilda's just this, like, goddess. She's like Titania, but in Gaiden. That's the impression I have of her. When you look at her stats and you look at her growth rates, you're like, oh, wow, what a great unit. She's better than your other paladins. She's leagues better than Clive, and she actually has good speed growth, and wow, what a great unit she is. And for the first few maps after you get her, she feels amazing. You give her the Night Killer, you can watch her just clear out entire squads of paladins. But there is one major flaw with Camilla. There's one major flaw with Mathilda that I never really noticed until now, and that is her awful defense. She's a base defense of 7, which is not good for a melee unit. You get her at a point in Alm's route where the difficulty spikes a lot. And I found that she just died so easily, to the point where I just had to keep her in the back. Like, if she got attacked by like 2 paladins, she'd be down to like single-digit HP. And while her resistance was really good, her low base HP made it really scary for her to go up against like Arcanists and other scary spellcasters. Like, my Mathilda just ended up not growing because I was too scared to send her into actual combat. Now, you can fix this with a shield, and maybe I should have done that. I think like a steel or a leather shield would really go a long way to improving her survivability. But I just found that Camilla... Why do I keep calling her Camilla? I just found that Mathilda just did not contribute anything beyond her first few chapters. She started getting a little bit of traction towards the end of the run, but I think she's kind of overrated in this game. Maybe it's because I played on easy mode the second time around, and I think Mathilda actually does struggle a little bit on easy mode because your other units will catch up to her much quicker, whereas on normal mode, her stats are a lot more valuable. So maybe I'm being a bit unfair to this character, but my impression of her after playing the game again is that I think she's a little overrated. I think people hype her up into the clouds as this like amazing pre-promote, and honestly, once you get her, she's not that special. Like, the enemies on Alm's side hit too hard for her poor defense. She's not able to tank on the front lines reliably, and when a character isn't able to survive on the front lines, they struggle to get experience. I hate to compare her to this unit, but it's a little bit like Isadora from Fire Emblem 7. Isadora's survivability so poor that you are scared to send her into combat, which means she doesn't get the experience she needs to properly snowball, and she ends up falling off. I call it the Isadora syndrome, and I think Mathilda suffers from it as well. Maybe I'm wrong here. Let me know in the comment section if you think I'm being unfair here, but I just think she's overrated. There are so many better units on Alm's side that you can train, other than Mathilda. Still love her design, though. then, of course, we come to the final unit. This may be a little bit of a boring pick, but truthfully, my perception of most characters didn't really change that much on my last playthrough. But there is a unit that I actually appreciated a lot. I'm not going to say he's amazing or anything, but I appreciated him. That's Nomah. I ended up losing every single healer on Celica's side, with no revivals left. Celica was the sole healer on my party, and Nomah. And I really, really appreciated that. Now, the reason why Nomah was kept alive, and units like Mei and Bowie wasn't, is quite simple. He's too bad to die. This is actually a new phrase that I've coined during my gauntlet, too bad to die. What do I mean by that? When a unit isn't particularly impressive in combat, and when their survivability is kind of bad, you tend to keep them in the back ranks. Nomah's pretty much a heal bot. That's what you need him to do. Like, he will go around and heal people, and he'll fire off the occasional Sagittae for some nice damage. And because Nomah is very frail, and his luck is really awful, and he's not super fast, you tend to keep him in the back, which means he stays safe. You don't send him into combat against scary enemies, so he stays alive. He's too bad to die. As a result, I ended up having Nomah alive at a crucial point during my run where Celica's party was kind of falling apart. I mean, about the time when I started fighting Jamil, he fired off like 3 Mega Quakes in the battle that I fought him, and I lost like a bunch of my key units. I lost Saber, I think I lost Paula, and then suddenly I found myself like without any healing, and Nomah was the only unit that could actually heal Celica up. So I appreciated him a lot. Like, it was nice to have him there, and because I never took great risks with him, I kept him alive. So, Nomah, I appreciate you, man. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say about Gaiden. I hope you found it informative. It's not a super well thought out retrospective or anything, but you know, just a little bit of rambly-wambly. I'll do the same thing for FE3. If you want to see that, give it a like and a comment. And yeah, I'll share the ROM, the translated ROM on the download station. A lot of people have been asking for it, so yeah, look forward to that. Anyway, guys, have a good time, and I'll be back with the FE3 retrospective very soon. Toodles!